Oh my goodness. And with the new, thank you so much for finding the text. Full text of Kanye West Wall Street Journal apology. Okay. And anyone like just coming in or didn't catch what we're doing, I used to be one of Kanye West's biggest fans. Oh, wait. We're going to do my music industry story one day. But another snippet of it is that I actually lost a job for Kanye West when I was a long time, like a long time ago. Okay. My first job, like official, like internship, I will say. Nope, not even my first internship. Maybe my second. Okay. My first job uh in like the news of music. I lost that job. I was working for like a music blog, but it wasn't like a really big thing. It was kind of like I knew this guy who long time ago, early internet, started up a music blog. And after a conversation with me, he was like, oh my goodness, you understand music. You get music. And he says, would you like to write for my paper, my online blog? He's like, I've never asked anyone to do that before. And so I said yes. I was young and I said yes. And we had some really cool moments with the blog. But then I started to talk about like hip hop versus rap music. And I'm like, some people are hip hop and some people are rap. And we got a lot of traffic to the channel. Someone I follow now, he was even commenting in the comments. I'm like, oh my goodness. Someone that I really honor in the hip hop OG, blogosphere. And then I did a post about how much I appreciated Kanye West. And this is early Kanye. This is like, not early. This is when we first started to know like he's going to do what he wants. So this is like post Katrina, I want to say. But like right after Katrina. And then the leader of the blog, he sends me a message or an email and he's like, hey, we don't talk about Kanye on this blog. And I'm like, wait, but he's so talented. He's like, yeah, but he's a jerk. And I'm like, oh, well, he has said different things out there, but I think it's mental. And I've been saying that since before Kanye actually came out and said that it was mental. Because I've just known people with different mental health issues. And he was giving very classic, to me, not educated in this at all, but it just gave that it might have been somewhat out of his control. And then fast forward, I ended up, feeling like, man, Kanye could really use some people who could maybe help him get maybe some of the help he needs. This is also after he came out and said, hey, I've got different things going on. And, sometimes people don't care to help a person like that manage it, because how we segued into this portion is that some people care more about fame. And the wilder things he does, the more likely people can make money from it if they're around it. And so I didn't fully get to that place yet in my story. So fast forward to like 2016, I met two of the guys who helped Kanye West get his first record deal out of Chicago. And it's 7 guys, by the way. So I don't know who I'm talking about at this moment. I'll tell y'all later when I tell my full story. But I met them and I became their third partner for a lot of their businesses, and they were very close to him. This is a very long story, so I'm just going to really be so brief. But I worked with them for 2 years and helped them with their like deals and their people and modernizing a lot of processes and things like that. And that was right before I switched to being a software engineer. So I literally went from being an executive in a label that was published under Universal to being like a brand new software engineer, like entry level. But what's really dope is like my last, career job was at Warner Music Group, and they found me because of my background in music. Like I literally didn't even apply for that job. They were like, "Hey, we know you have a background in music, and we know you know software. Will you help us found our software engineering team?" So that's a portion of the story. So there I am working with people very close to him. Like they were also in charge of some of his organizations as well while I was with them. And I just was like, maybe it'll turn around. Maybe it'll turn around. And this is also around the time that Kanye's doing the church things on the weekends. He was getting the choirs together. He's doing the church things. And there I am just like, okay, he is gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. And then something else happens, and then something else happens, and I'm just like, oh no. And then I finally got to the point, and we get to the when he's doing like the what was that shirt he was wearing, the like white lives matter. It's like, yeah, white lives do matter. So I'm not hating on white people, but I know he's doing it to be edgy and to say something that's gonna get the eyes of a certain type of person. And I'm just like, we need to have an intervention with this man. Somebody needs to do something. And fast forward, I finally kind of gave up a little bit. I don't give up on people, but I finally got to the place where I was like, maybe he doesn't want to receive the help. Maybe he's his own man now. He's a billionaire. Like, how do you stop a billionaire who doesn't feel the consequences of his actions? And that's another reason why we got to keep the community in every way, because any person can get to a place after you've had enough money and enough influence, enough power, to where you're going to start doing stuff that can have, damage that you can't erase or turn around. So it's like we've had other apologies from him before. We've heard so many things. And that's me coming into this, like, I'm hoping the best for him. I want the best for him. But there's a limit to society even. And it's so sad that he might experience more of this stuff going forward. Of like, okay, so for instance, there were a lot of, conservative bros like Andrew Tate, and I don't know the other guys' names, Nick Fuentes, right? They went to Miami and they were talking about, we're going to play Kanye's Hitler song. I'm like, we're on Twitch. I guess I can say the word. I'm not on TikTok right now. But they played his song and they're jamming to it in their limousine. They get to the club and then they're doing that club thing, right? They're, we're dancing to the song in the club. It's like they wake up the next day and they actually kind of all got banned from Miami, in a sense of they can't go to any club now out there. I think the mayor of Miami is Jewish. I'm pretty sure as well. And he's like, they're not welcome here. And, the mayor's going to have a little sway over businesses and business owners there. So he was probably like, hey, company, were you okay with this happening? The owner of the venue that they were in, they were like, we didn't know this happened. We're now going to change up our systems to make sure this never happens again. And they're not welcome back. Even some of their friends in the DJ space were like, yeah, I don't no longer like associate with you, like live on the air talking to these guys. And so, now that probably people are getting a lot of pushback, Kanye is probably losing respect or fans that he just earned, or got into his orbit um because of these wild songs that he put out. But my thing is, it shouldn't just be him. He didn't record that song himself. He didn't press it. He didn't put it out. There are so many people involved, even if he is his own person and he can pay people to do whatever he wants. There are still other people around that should have said no, that should have refused. You know what I'm saying? You can still refuse. Yeah, he's a billionaire. He can give you $100 million and it still not be a problem for him. But I feel like society really has done a number on a lot of us. A lot more people would have spoken up in other times. But now there's so much. Now it's about to get political real quick. I mean, this whole thing is political, but it's like they legit have made it so people look at money as being a virtue instead of it being the tool that it has always been. But what is it? The love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, let's get to this article, y'all. Okay, so all of that to say, I was such a fan, and I have, wanted him to recover. I want him to do that thing. I want him to, make a turnaround. I hope he gets the help he needs. I hope he starts to collaborate with all the people he's collaborated with before he got so weird, right? With the music, at least. Part of me is like, maybe he needs to get back with his Delta girlfriend that he talked about in, was it College Dropout? Okay, because things were pretty okay. And I also know that he lost his mother, and everyone grieves differently. I lost my mom, and I grieved in a way that other people wouldn't, probably. So there's so many pieces of this. And I hope it comes back around for him. Also, Bella, what? 25 stream streak. Bella, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I appreciate you. Okay, we're going to read this. Full text of his apology. Oh goodness, it already starts wild. To those I've hurt, it should just be an apology. Like, because that's the thing. If it's only to those you've hurt and you're kind of like, but to those I didn't hurt, yeah, I still feel the way I feel. But I guess he's kind of trying to say, like, the to whom it may concern, or the like to everybody who I have harmed, I guess. But no, it should just be like, I'm sorry. Just be like, I am sorry, which a lot of people don't even like to say that phrase because it means like you're putting yourself down. But in this case, and I'm sorry could be helpful. Okay, 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw. I almost got emotional just now because that was a really wild time. Okay, 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. At the time, the focus was on the visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside my skull, went unnoticed. Comprehensive scans were not done, neurological exams were limited, and the possibility of frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. What? The medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. Okay, so here's some pieces. Like I said before, even from a distance, before I was even working even anywhere adjacent or near him, I had a feeling that there was something wrong. But that's the thing about the music industry too. Just like kind of sports and stuff, you just are kind of always expected to keep going. Like nothing's going to stop the show. Just keep it going as long as numbers are moving and things are happening. Why are we going to slow it down and ask questions? But that's also why we need every type of person in the music industry, because we need people who are thoughtful, who are going to slow it down and say, hey, like, let's figure out what's going on. Because then we could have maybe have done things differently. He could have been healthier now if he got some more assistance with whatever happened to him then. It says bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system. Denial. Okay. Oh my goodness. And so another thing is that I'll discuss probably after we read through this, but I have experienced family with bipolar. And we've never really talked about this for different reasons, but yeah, we might be talking about it today. But bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system, denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone else is overreacting. Now I might get emotional. I was like, what kind of apology could he say that I'm going to like listen to? Oh, man. Because if the bipolar disorder that I feel is in my family was hypomania, which is you have a manic, literally this, and you get to this place where you are almost euphoric in the destruction that you're causing. And then when someone tells you, hey, you're being destructive, you may even double down, triple down, and keep doing more of it. Then they go to sleep. At least this is my personal experience with someone who we believe was hypermanic. He would go to sleep, wake up the next day, and I would say, last night was really rough. And to go ahead and tell y'all, because I already feel like I'm going to say it, it was my dad, by the way. And the next morning, I would not kind of want to be around him because the day before, I'm like bawling my eyes out from him being manic the day before. And then the next day, I'm like, have my distance. And he would be like, like, why are you being weird? And I'm like, yesterday. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you don't remember yesterday? He's like, no, like, what are you, like, what's, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. So now we're just going to go ahead and tell a part of the story because I'm already feeling emotional. My parents were separated from the time I was in going to kindergarten until I was entering the 9th grade. And so I was around my dad, often, I never felt like I couldn't see him anytime I wanted. And then when he moved back in when I was 16, or when I was 14, excuse me, it was very different. I was used to my mom, who is very level-headed, like practically 99.9% of the time, like a human, right? And then next thing I know, actually, let me actually switch over to just chatting because we're about to be talking about just all the stuff. Hold on one moment. Yeah. Okay. So my dad, yeah. So my mom was very level-headed all of her life and very reasonable too. Like even when I was little and getting in trouble in school, she would ask me what I did and why I did it. And if it made sense to her, I wouldn't get in more trouble. Like I'm talking like trouble in school. She would be like, oh, okay, that made sense why you did that. And so I was mainly raised by my mom from kindergarten through high school, starting high school. So my dad, he gets back in the house and he, it was such extremes, right? It was just like, he was the nicest guy ever. Like in the community, everyone loved my dad. And then he would be not so nice sometimes. Sometimes it was offset by something, but he just psychologically was the worst in some ways. Um, and I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to like talk to someone about this. Like, I want to go to a therapist because I went to a school with like a lot of white kids who are all okay with going to therapy and stuff. And so I was like, oh, like they all talk about it. Let me do it. So at like 13 or 14, I went to one and I was like, hey, like there's something, my dad, it's a lot, you know? And she's like, yeah, I think we should be talking to your dad from the stories you're telling me. And as I'm walking out of there, there's a spindle of like all of these mental conditions. And I felt like, oh my goodness, I'd heard of bipolar before. And it makes you think like the different poles, like they're happy or they're upset. And I was like, oh my goodness. I pull the pamphlet and I look at the back and there's like 12 different symptoms. And he had, in my opinion, 10 of the 12 symptoms on there. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And the other two I couldn't know. My mom would have to know. And my mom had a degree in psychology. So I went to her and said, Mom, like, look at this. Or Mama, I don't think I ever called her Mom. But Mama, look at this. And she looked at it and she looked at me. She read through it. And then she was like, no, I don't think he has that. He doesn't have those two items. And she was just kind of like, you know, thinking I just was trying to say that. Maybe she thought I was just mad at him. And so I'm like, oh, now he's bipolar. And it's like, no, I really wasn't. I was genuinely like sad because I helped take care of my grandmother as a baby who had Alzheimer's when I was little. And so, yeah, I entirely was, thoughtful of maybe something's going on. And here's another one. Like there was another day. It was just like a really, really bad evening. And the next day, he kind of believed me about what I said happened the day before because he was also like the nicest guy. And the next day, like I was like, no, I was like, we call him Daddy, which is a very specific term for your dad. But I was like, Daddy, it was really, really bad yesterday. He's like, really? And so he took me out and bought me a computer, my very first like desktop computer, brand new. And he didn't even buy his own computers brand new. Like he would build them himself. But that was him trying to give an apology. But he didn't know how to apologize. See, this is why this is messing me up. He didn't know how to apologize because maybe he didn't ever fully understand what he had done wrong because he didn't actually experience it. Because it was us telling him, like me telling him, hey, yesterday was really bad. And he would kind of have to take my word for it sometimes. But the other thing, and so what happens later is, 20 years later, not 20 years later. My goodness, not 20 years later. 10 years later. 10 years later, my mom comes to me and she says, Erica, I think you are right that there is something else going on. She said, but I think you were wrong about it being simple bipolar. And instead, he may be hypermanic. He might have hypomania, which is a form of bipolar disorder. And so with hypomania, the thing about it is you have your highs and your lows. But like he's saying here, when you're manic, you don't know you're sick. Literally what he's saying. And you kind of like black out on whatever it is you're about to do. And there's another thing about hypermanics is that they don't have to sleep much. They literally can live off of 3 hours of sleep a night, if that. They wake up high energy, and they also have all of the creativity in the world. So these are some of the things that separates a hypermanic person from a person with bipolar, just simply bipolar disorder. And so the other thing about that is hypermania. Oh, you said Elon Musk is also hypermanic? Oh my goodness. That's wild. But I can see it because they have this unlimited energy. And they have this unlimited creativity. And they don't have to sleep, which would seem like, who wouldn't want that? You can take over the world with that, right? But that's the other problem, is the only bad part about them. I mean, you need to sleep for your brain and stuff, but one of the worst parts about them, they are completely oblivious that it's happening. And so they don't take medicine. It is very extremely rare that you can have a hypermanic person to get the help that they need, because they are going to lose their ability to feel superhuman. Oh, that's another symptom. They think they are superhuman and that nothing can stop them, which is also another trait you need if you're going to be like a freaking mastermind of business. My dad was also an entrepreneur. He was a serial entrepreneur, which goes into Kanye West and all of his ventures in creativity, Elon Musk and all of his ventures in creativity, you know? And so it's just like, I could see that, and I honored the parts of him that were so creative. But then depending on who's around you, you're going to have a hard time being successful inside of that untapped and like unrestrainable creativity. It's like my dad was starting a new business every other day. And there I am being like, oh, I can just use my creativity for all these things. But then I was like, no, I also fortunately learned about business from outside perspectives. And I still honor the creativity I have. And if I have it, I write it down. But I'm not going to start 100 businesses. Even though I'm like, ooh, that'd be so much fun. So yeah, now I'm like, oh, snap. If he was hypermanic, that does change a little bit of this for me, because I saw that firsthand. And I got to see the chaos from such a nice person. My dad, I'm telling you, people loved my dad. I loved my dad. He was the nicest guy. But when he was manic, oh goodness. Yeah. And there's one like really, really bad story that I'm not going to say right now, but I am writing in my book too. But yeah, it can get bad. So yeah, now we'll keep going through and reading this with you now, knowing more about the things for me. Oh, Cleo, how are you? Oh my goodness, so good to see you, Cleo. There we go. Okay. So now let's keep going. Okay. Okay. Bipolar comes with its own defense system. Denial. True. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone else is overreacting. True. You feel like you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, when in reality, you're losing your grip entirely. Yeah, I can see that too. Once people label you as crazy, you feel as if you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. Okay, so let me also stay on that part, because I realized something I was about to say a moment ago. With that untapped energy and that person even maybe feeling a little bit like all the stuff is happening, if you don't have people around you to help manage it and to help you find the best ideas and help you put your energy toward that and help you to realize those ideas, it can be hard to get things done. And so my dad, he was also in the music industry. And he was doing a million things in the music industry as well. Uh, and he had a record, he had his own label. And like I grew up in that and stuff like that. Um, and so it's like I'm in his studio, and he finally one day, like we had a really tough relationship for sure, because he also came back into my life when I'm a teenage girl, and he's doing things that I'm like, what in the world is going on? Um, but he had his passion in music, and that was his main focus. And I was going to help him. That's a part of why I ended up learning so much about the music industry. I wanted so bad to learn as much as I could to then help my siblings and my family to realize as much of the potential as we could. Um, but our relationship was so fractured that at times I was not knowing how that would really work out in the end. But he did tell me one day, he was like, you know, if he had built up the empire that he always wanted to build, he kind of felt like he would have passed it down to me to continue on. And that was in one of his most nicer and kindest of moments. But he knew that I was really serious about the business of music. And that, you know, he could see that with a lot of the different people I worked with and things like that. And so he probably at times felt different things, but he ended up in the end moving away from music, because it was probably hard for him to manage a lot of the ideas and the different things that he wanted to do. And so he went into something that in the end was very structured, by the way. Like he ended up in the most structured, and you can read that in one of the articles I was telling y'all about that I was in. It mentions, I talked about my dad in it. I talked about my dad and how my background in tech is also highly inspired by him. But I lost both my parents, by the way. So that's also, I'm also getting a little bit emotional right now, that even though it was a tough relationship, I always felt like a lot of it was out of his control. And that's why I brought it to my family. Like, hey, like maybe we can all, if we all understand what's going on, we can help him to be, you know, maybe get medication or get what he needs so that he can experience more of the better things all of the time. So that's why I'm now like, for all the things, I was literally like, what could Kanye say to make me be like, oh, like this time this apology makes sense? But for him to say something that I experienced firsthand, and he's literally like saying it out of what it is. So, oh my goodness. I'm like, not me, about to call up his people and be like, you know what? I can come back and work with y'all again because now I get it. So by the way, I mentioned this before, like the two guys I worked with, they lost a deal, or not a deal. They were in the news because a fashion designer, hired Kanye to do a show, and then the guy wired them $1 million, and Kanye wasn't going to do the show. And I was a little upset at my business partners too, because I'm like, one, I'm supposed to be in all of our meetings for all of our deals. So because y'all did this and then y'all got in trouble for it, I'm going to step away from the company because this is too much. So now reading this, I'm like, man, if he's hypomanic, there's a chance he had an episode or something else, which is why he wasn't able to show up. And then they probably couldn't talk about what happened in the press. So that's where it's like, Okay, anyway. Oh my goodness. Not me already forgiving him and being like we're cool. We're not cool. We're not cool. Let me hold on. Okay, let's keep reading, y'all. Oh my goodness. See, he got me already in my feels. I'm already emotional. See, but this is what he wanted. This is what he wanted to happen. Okay, no. I gotta woman up. Okay, we back in this. Okay. Oh, Cleo, thank you for the hug. Thank you. Okay. All right, where were we? Okay, once people label you as crazy, you feel as if you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off when in fact this is a very serious debilitating disease you can die from. According to the World Health Organization and Cambridge University, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that is shortened by 10 to 15 years on average, and a 2 to 3 times higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1 diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all lethal and fatal if left untreated. The scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is when it tells you you don't need help. It makes you blind, but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, and unstoppable. I told y'all that. That is one of the symptoms, is you feel you are invincible and you are superhuman. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I love the most, I treated the worst. Oh no, like that was my thing too. Cause like I told y'all, like my dad in public and to people, he was like everyone's hero and the nicest guy ever. But in the house, oh my goodness, that's when you're more likely to do your manic things. Maybe when you are more comfortable or when well, I spend more time with my dad than anybody else would. So it's one of those things where you end up around the people you love the most, and that's where you're gonna end up treating them the worst. Oh my goodness. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to love someone who was at times unrecognizable. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh my goodness. It's like, I remember I first moved to Los Angeles and I was telling someone about my dad, and they were like, I told them the story that I'm not really going to say right now. And they were like, what? And you're still like, you still love your dad? And I was just like, yeah, like I know he was being manic. And he was just like, no. But that's also my introduction to LA. It's very much like, nothing, you don't let anything touch you, and you don't have, and like separate yourself from people and all that kind of stuff. And I've done that. Like I've been away from family at times if I felt like I needed to be. But I always just felt like I know there's something going on with him. And so I still love him, even though like we had a rough time and it was only like 3.5 years, it feels like. But it was a rough 3.5 years as well. Or no, it's technically 4 because I did come back after I not graduated, but after I dropped out of my first university. I moved back home for a year. But anyway, we're okay. Where are we? Oh yeah. Woo! Exhaustion of trying to love someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. So in that fractured state, I gravitated toward the most destructive symbol I could find, the swastika, and even sold t-shirts bearing it. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I'll tell y'all another story too, real quick. So my dad, he also had a quadruple bypass surgery because he used to eat whatever he wanted. He literally, that's the part of the invincible. The doctor told him he could die any day, like 10 years before he had a heart attack. And he still just was going hard and eating whatever he wanted. He's like, this is my life. I get to do what I want in it. Sound like Kanye and Elon Musk, by the way. He doesn't care what we thought about it, even though I'm like, don't you care like how we feel? Like we might lose you early. And he's just like, no, it's, I could eat whatever I want. And and then he had a heart attack. And then I flew back to North Carolina to see him after the heart attack. And they also, by the way, when they were operating on him for the heart attack, they found out he had cancer. Like all the things all at once. And I say to him, like, we were having a day, and next thing I know, he slips into a manic episode, and he's just like being so the most, and there's still me not remembering all the time that it's manic, because it doesn't just, start wild. It kind of rears up a little bit. And I always kept thinking I could bring him back from it. And so we're having a conversation, and he was getting more and more irrational. And I was just like, hey, like, I kind of thought that, you getting sick and all these things, that maybe we could have a different relationship. And in the manic state, he literally turned into the worst. He was like, no. He was like, you thought I was bad before. I'm going to be so much worse now. And I'm like, oh, snap, I gotta go. I said, Mama, I love you. I'm gonna go while he comes down from this one. Okay. So that's where I'm like, even him choosing the swastika, like I can kind of see him being like, oh, y'all thought it was bad. Like I'm gonna be even worse. And I'm just like, oh, snap, man. Y'all, hypomania is someone in a manic state is no joke. Okay. Okay. And so he said, I even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the difficult aspects of having bipolar type 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I still cannot recall, that led to poor judgment and reckless behavior that oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regret and am deeply mortified by my actions in that state, and am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. But my thing, though, is that all of these, you could be all of these things. Like you could be against Semitism and love a few Jewish people, and you could be a Nazi who also has like a couple Jewish people that you love, but overall, like there's even the guys I was just telling you about, by the way, the guys who were playing his song and they just got kicked out of Miami. One of them says he's done the salute, and then he comes out later on and says, I'm actually Jewish. Like you can be Jewish and do these things, right? And my thing is Semitism, we've now kind of made it so only Jewish people are Semites, but actually Palestinian people are also Semites. So you could technically be a Jewish person and be anti-Semitic towards Palestinians. Okay, so, okay. And I think that's another thing. Maybe I'm thinking like in scripture and stuff like that, which he's, says he is a Christian in different ways. The thing is, you can say you love somebody, but it's not real unless it's proved by your actions. Okay, so him just writing in this thing saying, I love Jewish people. No, you got to prove you love someone. You can't just say it and now it's just real for everybody. Okay, this next sentence starts with, to the Black community, which held me down through all the highs and the lows in the darkest of times. The Black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I am so sorry to have let you down. I love us. And this is still hard. Like, and I'm my heart, I'm tearing up on the parts of his illness. But when you hear an apology so many times and you keep doing the stuff, that's when it's hard. It's hard to be like, let me backtrack a second to the job I lost. Yeah. Okay. Full circle real quick. I realized I didn't finish telling that story. So um, I started talking about Kanye, and this is a long time ago. Uh, and this is before, this is right after Katrina. Uh, and I wrote about Kanye to give y'all who didn't hear the beginning of this because we completely sidetracked. Um, the owner of it, he's like, no, 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 don't talk about Kanye. And then I started a whole discussion about Kanye West on the blog. And so many people came by and were putting up comments. And I was just like, people say he's not an artist, or, they let his illness, or his, what I think is an illness, be a reason why they shouldn't listen to his music. And it made a lot of commentary on the internet. Then the guy, I think it was the second article, where he was like, okay, yeah, I don't want you to work here anymore because I don't like Kanye. And I've told you I don't like Kanye. And I was just like, okay, at least I stood up for what I liked as being his fan. And that's a part of the people. Like, I'm technically one of the people in kind of like the press in a way, or a production, not a production, but a publication, who was still fighting for him even when he did stuff that was a mess. Okay. Then I lost that job. Then let's fast forward. I'm working with some of his people, and in, supporting some of the organizations under him before it got real bad. And then what happened? I'm still connected. By the way, funny part, I'm still connected. Well, somewhat connected. That's another part of the story. I was connected with the guy who owned that blog all this time. This is like 15 years ago. Or a little longer maybe, that I wrote for him. We still were connected. And, throughout the years, he would try to say something about Kanye. And he's like, see, he got worse. And I'm like, wait, okay, hold on. He is getting worse. Wait, oh no. And here's the wild part about why I'm not connected with that guy anymore. It was all over some like Black Lives Matter stuff. He posted something up on LinkedIn that was like, oh, people being woke, and that's terrible. And this is, by the way, it is a white guy. Full disclosure. But he was like, all this woke stuff or something like that. And so I sent a comment first, and then I sent a direct message. I said, hey, like, this is early woke days. They're not knowing what woke means, and it's being misused. And I'm like, hey, like, I don't think you think that means what you think it means. This is, more of the thing. And then he's like, oh, you're just trying to cancel me now. And I'm like, no, I'm really not trying to cancel you. I'm really trying to tell you that what you're saying is really messed up about a group of people. And that's a dog whistle for Blackness. And I don't think you're intending to do that. Like, you've been supportive of hip hop. He was supportive of hip hop, even though he didn't really Kanye. Like, Kanye was the polarizing, space in between us. But I'm just like, I'm trying to help. And then he disconnected with me. He canceled me. He said not to cancel him, and I didn't. And he canceled me. Y'all, in the end, chaos. Oh my goodness. I think the only person who's ever like disconnected from me on LinkedIn. How dare he? But I think he was kind of afraid of like cancellation. Like, he thought I was going to post on another post of his and be like, hey, that's not cool. But it's kind of like, right, it's kind of like, if you're going to write this stuff, you should be okay with people's responses to it. Like, you come from the blogosphere in music. Like, you should be okay with the conversations. Okay, anyway. Okay, in early 2025, I fell under a 4-month-long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. Oh my goodness. As the situation became increasingly unsustainable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. And so now it's like, oh shoot, what just happened? And now we're at a place where it's like, he should have had people around. You are wealthy enough and you are successful enough. You're still in meetings with people. I'm not saying during this time. I'm not blaming him in what he's saying was the worst time. I'm saying people around him. Somebody like there's me, like my mom, had a degree in psychology. So I grew up kind of like really into mind things and like trying to understand stuff. Um, but I just really feel like somebody or more people should have said something. But that's also to think like a bunch of people whose main focus might have been music their whole life, like they were supposed to not see him as like a divo, which is like the male diva, right? Like maybe they thought like, no, he's on his own wavelength. He gets to do what he wants. And then maybe he went into such a darkness that he was alone and maybe people couldn't. So, I don't want to try to blame anyone. But I'm just hopeful. Maybe this is something, you know what? I'm going to put this in my later folder. I'm going to add this to my curriculum for the music industry thing that I'm building to like teach the youth about it, because you have got to make sure you have people in your life who are going to tell you the thing you don't want to hear, and you have to be okay with it. You have to be okay with it, and make systems that if you're not okay with it, there are other systems in place to make sure someone else or whatever, someone you're going to listen to is going to know about it. I don't know, something. I'm going to think on this. Okay. So let me see, where were we? Okay. Having bipolar disorder is not a state of constant mental illness. When you go into the manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you are not in an episode, you are completely normal. And that's when the wreckage from the illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged you to finally get help. Yes. But that's a thing of, he probably, like he said, he didn't want to be here anymore. That is one of the biggest warning signs. And that's, I think, a state that anybody can say, hey, something's going on. You know what I'm saying? And if he went into the manic state and then felt that way and then came out, if you're sitting in a room for days on end, maybe being in a state like that, something's going to be different with your body. Like the human body has to do certain things to be normal or to feel like it's being taken care of. So he had to have believed something was off. I have found comfort in Reddit forums of all places. What? Oh man, but that's okay. I have also, like, I found out I might have had compassion fatigue. I think I learned that from a Reddit forum. And that took me on like a whole journey to really understand it. But that was a few years ago, and I'm getting back my compassion, y'all. As I tell y'all, like my heart keeps growing. That's kind of what I mean. Because I do think I hit compassion fatigue. Because when you are exhausted and caring for people who don't know how to return it, there is a limit to it, and you can actually run out of it. So y'all take care of yourselves, and make sure you are loving yourselves to overflow, and then loving people from the overflow. Okay. Different people speak of being in manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I read their stories and realized that I was not alone. It's not just me who ruins their entire life once a year, despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called best doctors in the world that I am not bipolar, but merely experiencing symptoms of autism. Well, okay. Oh man, this is such an experience for me to be reading this, y'all, because my goodness, my dad was also a pre-med major, planning to be a doctor. And then he got disillusioned with doctors. He left that major, and then he felt doctors don't know anything. And so I grew up in a very question doctors, make sure that you are figuring your own things out too, but they don't know things. But there's a reason for that. We are human, and the body can have an infinite amount of things going on that they're trying to guess what the answer is. And so, for him to say the so-called best, they probably literally are the best doctors in the world, but they can't know everything. And if he also is exhibiting certain symptoms, and then when he's manic, he doesn't know what he's going through, talking to these doctors like, yeah, they're saying this stuff about me, but I'm just socially awkward. Then they might be like, so then, yeah, it might just be autism, So science is hard. Healthcare is hard. It's all hard. But it looks like he's trying to say he's taking the medication. I didn't know he was taking medication. That also makes me feel like, okay, you were trying and somebody got you to that point and he went to doctors. Okay, that's also looking good. He was misdiagnosed. That's also something that needs to be considered. Okay. My words as a leader in my community have real global impact and influence. Okay, sir, sorry. I think we took him out of being like a leader of the community. He is technically a role model because of how much money he has, but that puts him outside of music and the Black community, if that's the one he's referring to. So yeah, my words as a leader. Oh, okay. He can say that. We need him to come back into the good qualities, and then with his actions in the future, if from here, y'all, I know I'm saying it like, and this is what happens, me dealing with someone in my family with mental things, like you keep coming back and you keep being like, you know what, this is the time. But in real life, y'all, no. When I was 18, right after I got out of the house, I was like, nah, if I see something from a mile away, nah, you're not going to be in my life. And then my friend at the time, who became my best friend, she knew that about me. And she was like, no, you should give people more chances. And I did. So around 19, I was like, okay, let me give people more chances. And ends up, she was a person I didn't need to be around. And I told her that back then. I was like, girl, I don't know about us being in a friendship because I don't feel like this ends well. Long time later, it ended in the worst possible way. But she also mentioned that she had some mental things. But I feel like we're all on the spectrum of everything, is what I say. And even if the spectrum is negligible. So it's just kind of a thing of sometimes we have discernment and we can see the thing. And sometimes you gotta say goodbye. It's like I'm still thinking of the music I've loved of his that I want back. But he also, collaborates with a lot of people with the different albums and the different work he's done. So maybe I'm more so wanting him to collaborate again with the old people that he used to collaborate with. So there's that part. Okay. There's more to this. In my mania, so he was a leader, or he says, my words as a leader, which means currently, in my community, I have real global impact and influence. In my mania, I lost complete sight of that. Another real piece on that real quick. No, you have money now. You have money now, which makes maybe him think he has global impact and influence as a leader. No, he had the leadership and now he has money. And now he can do whatever he wants. And it can seem like he's leading too. Okay. As I find my new baseline and new center through an effective regime of medication, therapy, exercise, and clean living, I have newfound much needed clarity. I am pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, music, clothing, design, and other new ideas to help the world. Okay, my goodness, I'm about to text these people. Hold on. As I find my new baseline, okay, other ideas to help the world. I'm not asking for sympathy or a free pass. Though I aspire to earn your forgiveness, I write today simply to ask for your patience and understanding as I find my way home. If his next album is called Home, or My Way Home, or Find My Way Home, or any variation of this last sentence, I might side eye him real hard. Okay? It might be a super hard side eye. But, oh, and he says, with love. And that's my thing. And y'all might be upset with me too. I don't believe in throwing people away for anything, for the most part. No, not throwing people away. More so like, yeah, there are some people who end up needing to be locked up and like, you know, not in society because they just literally can't be out here like that. But I don't believe we should throw away a person and feel like even the person that, you know, has to be restrained at all times, maybe there's something deeper going on. And most of the time I feel that's the case. There is always something deeper, but I need to see certain action from him to where he's going to remove the music, like remove the music from the bad stuff from all the streaming platforms. Remove, like, donate every dime you've received from it to that and plus some to different places. You have to now go back in time to correct some of the stuff because you still benefited from this stuff, even if you took a hit in some ways because he lost sponsorships or anything like that. But I'm hopeful for his health. Let me say first, I'm hopeful for his health and his wellness. I'm hopeful that he, you know, is gonna make healthy decisions. He's gonna have a support system around him to make sure he doesn't do the stuff he's done publicly anymore. There has to be people in place to help that. If he wants us to believe this thing that has been written in the newspaper. Okay? So I'm really hopeful for his health first. Then I'm hopeful for the health and wellness of the people who he is around, right? The people who have experienced these horrible things. If he's still married, I hope that's the most wonderful relationship. I hope his daughter, because that's the thing, being the child of a person with hypomania and bipolar, there are chances things turn out in very drastic ways, depending on what state of you they're inspired by too. And so I hope his daughter also, or his children, that they're going to get the help they need to recover from whatever they experience while being around him. Oh my goodness, the babies. The babies. Oh my goodness. That part too. Then I'm like listing these in like my order. I hope that he spiritually even, you know, gets to a good place too. And then selfishly, I want the old Kanye. I'm not this new Kanye. So I'm hoping he gets back to the music, because one thing that man can do is collaborate. Yeah, collaborate. Okay. And he knows about putting things together. He was a DJ first, right? He was a DJ first. He knows how people feel and what gets the people going, right? Like he put in Watch the Throne with Jay-Z. So I'm so grateful that there is forgiveness for things. and that we don't all have to go through our worst moments this publicly. I'm glad that he is trying to bring light to some things that some people don't know about, even, right? It's like, this is important literature just for people to read and know. And you know what's wild, y'all? I'm telling y'all about my dad, and it's his birthday. I just realized that. And it's 129 on 129, which is my late dad's birthday. It's January 29th. The way I had no idea that I would just be randomly talking about my dad on his birthday. That's wild, y'all. So yeah, people need to know about this, and maybe now they're gonna have feelings for or words for the feelings that they've had and the things that they've gone through with people not knowing what's going on. Because if you don't think it's an illness, you could think you're hated by the person and that they don't care about your feelings. Because if you tell them like, hey, I was hurt, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, nothing happened. We just talked about X, Y, and Z. You're going to think they don't care about you. And so fortunately, that's also the fortunate thing. I had some type of insight at such a childlike age. I was 13 or 14 when I went to that lady. And I was just like, there's something else going on. Ain't no way. I'm like, he's so smart. For him to just be so, like, for him to not have it together when he can have it together for every job he ever worked. So I'm like, he has it. And so I was able to grow up very, I think, well adjusted, because I knew something else was going on and I didn't take it personally. Like, I was sad at times because it's rough to go through, and to not know how to help them and feel helpless and sometimes hopeless at times. But I'm grateful that this story is being told. And hopefully other people are now maybe people are gonna go to Reddit and they'll find some more stories, and they're gonna be able to put words to what they've experienced. Yeah, that's so important. We gotta normalize more talk about mental health, especially in the Black community. No fault of our own, but we've been through some things psychologically for a long time. And then when we started to say, we're learning about gaslighting that they had been doing to us and brainwashing us and all sorts of things, then they're like, no, you're crazy. But they were also gaslighting us. So it's just like, man, we don't want to be called crazy. We don't want to be called any of those things, because there's a deep line of that, of where it comes from. And so for him to be one of the richest and most successful of musicians, who also greatly identifies with Black culture, this can maybe go a long way with helping people to at least consider, like, man, maybe there is a better way. And I'm glad he didn't mention the things like I mentioned, which are how, he may lose some of that creativity. He may lose some of his, drive a little bit. Because yes, that is the reality of it, but some people may not get the help because of that. But I hope people understand, in the end, you live a longer life. He did mention that. You live a longer life. You get to have a more fulfilling life. The people around you aren't as exhausted, and they can love you even deeper and even more. You are in more of reality. And that's, I think, such a much better place to live in, because you then get to fully enjoy the fruits of your labor and you get to know that it's sustainable. Um, so yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, Ray, thanks for putting that up into the chat as well. You said if you need to talk, dial 988. Lifeline is there at the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They understand that life's challenges can sometimes be difficult. Whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need someone to talk to, our caring counselors are here for you. You are not alone. Ray out here. Let me give you a shout out to Ray Shaughnessy. You got to tell me how to say your name. He also does mental health streams and talks about these things as well. Y'all go follow him as well. Thank you so much for posting that up here. So yeah. That's a little bit weird. Hold on, let me get out the way. So it's like, yeah, and maybe you have to put that in a Wall Street Journal thing, like who paid for it. But I feel like you don't have to put the CFO there. You know what I mean? But the chief financial officer is the one behind putting this in the Wall Street Journal. It just gives it a little tinge of this was a financial decision instead of this being just straight from Yay. Okay. Wait, a contextual queen. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.